Good evening and welcome. It's Friday, it's 8 o'clock, and that means it's time for Buster's Virtual Jazz Club. That's right, we're live on YouTube to infinity and beyond, reaching out to everyone all around the world on this very special day, International Jazz Day. That's right, it's International Jazz Day today. Apparently, it's declared by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization in 2011 to highlight jazz and its diplomatic role of uniting people in all corners of the globe. And I like to think we're playing our part right now with that. So do say something in the chat box if anybody's out there, if you're getting this, and let us know where you're from as well. All corners of the globe covered today. So I'd just like to say a big thank you to all my regular Patreon subscribers, and also to everyone who makes a donation on PayPal and Visa. We can now take one-off Visa donations as well. It means a lot and it's been a massive help, especially this year, and it's still very much welcome. And thank you for all your lovely messages as well that you send in. I do appreciate that. I read them all, and I don't know how to reply to them on PayPal, but I do get them, so thank you. So if you want to make a donation, just visit the link below. Everything's there, all the links are there. And don't forget also to have a look and check out who's going to be coming up. My next guest, I've got the next few weeks already booked up, and you can see all of the past shows on my website, Buster Birch Virtual Jazz Club. Also, I must remember to say, if you are watching this on YouTube, then please do also click the subscribe button. I think it's down there, because that will really help me out as well. So on to tonight's show. My guest this evening is a prolific international performer, composer, arranger, band leader and touring soloist. He is best known for his work on clarinet, alto and baritone sax, where he combines a formidable virtuosity with a musical expression and collaborative spirit that have few peers. His range and brilliance have made him a first call for studio and live work since his precocious arrival on the scene more than 30 years ago. His recorded catalogue is immense. He has made over 30 albums as leader and co-leader alone, and the list of his session and sideman work includes the likes of Bjork, Brian Ferry, Michel Legrand, Claire Teal, Westlife, Jules Holland and Jamie Cullum. He has toured and played residencies with such diverse and demanding figures as Ruby Braff, Freddie Hubbard, Scott Hamilton, Warren Vacher, Ken Poplawski, Harry Allen and Conti Candoli. As a young jazz musician on the scene, he was recognised early and hired by the established greats of the time, including Stan Tracy, John Dankworth, Kenny Baker, Bob Wilber and Humphrey Lyttelton. But he is equally respected for his long-standing and fruitful collaborations with contemporaries such as Dave Newton, Bruce Adams and Martin Taylor, who we're going to hear some of those tonight. His unique musicianship, incredible touring schedule and warm rapport with audiences have made him uniquely popular in British jazz, and he has received over 25 British Jazz Awards and has twice been made BBC Jazz Musician of the Year. Amazing. And I'm pleased to say he's here with us now, live on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the very wonderful Mr. Alan Barnes. Hello, mate. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm nearly in tears listening to that, Buster. I'm absolutely moved. It makes me realise it's all in the past.
No, of course not. No, it's lovely to see you. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your time with us, giving up your evening, and for sharing your music. You've picked some beautiful tracks. I mean, there's so much that you've done and produced, Alan. It's incredible. So obviously we can only show a few little snippets of a few things, but hopefully people will take that opportunity to check them out. So what we're going to do is usually start off by saying, what you've been up to lately. It's the
Well, I've been sat here, Buster, waiting for this. No, I've been quite busy, really. Not earning much money, of course. I've been teaching online, like most musicians have been doing recently. I've written a new suite called the Copperfield Suite, which is my jazz version of Charles Dickens' novel.
Fantastic.
I'm an old ham. I don't know. Is
that based on Oliver Twist? That one?
No. Oh, you got the right name.
Sorry. Yeah, obviously. Sorry.
Did that one. So yeah, I did Christmas Carol as well. So I like dressing up, and reading bits of the novels and having a bit of lighting and that, and also playing some jazz with the octet. You know, in a way, people will listen to stuff, original music, more if you dress it up like that.
I think it's fantastic what you do. I mean, you do, of course, everything you produce is such an amazingly high quality, and you have the absolute creme de la creme musicians with you as well, including yourself, of course. But I think what you're producing is really interesting and really important work. And that this idea of suites, I mean, we're going to play a little bit later, but you've done quite a few of them now, and this idea of cross collaborations with other disciplines. You've got poetry and narrators in there, and I think it really brings to life the like you say, the original music, with tying it together with a kind of concept of some literary work, which I know you're very keen on as well.
And also, it gets some people listen to jazz that never read anything, and some people read that never listen to any jazz. And if you can actually make them think that either of those things isn't a bad thing to do, it's great for that. It doubles an audience.
Well, it connects with people, doesn't it, in a way, I think.
I mean, all the arts are connected. I mean, literature, art, music, it's all about just lovely things, isn't it? Great things, you know.
Well, I think, you know, it helps to sort of tie things together, and people, and the other thing is, so we'll talk more about this in a bit, but so what you do is you write these suites, and I mean, the music's fantastic. It's really amazing, just on its own is a thing. But where the piece is kind of like they paint the picture, don't they? Is that fair to say of the piece?
That's the aim. I mean, some people are a bit sceptical about this suite. They think you just Tipp-Ex the titles out on the last one and write the new titles in, you know. But actually, I go into quite a lot of preparation for each piece, you know.
It's an enormous amount of work,
Yeah, so like with Scrooge, I actually got about the baritone using the words bar humbug throughout, you know, and things like that. And I mean, it's obvious stuff, but it works, you know.
Well, I don't know. I think it's brilliant. And the other thing is, I mean, there's that history of jazz as well with obviously with Duke Ellington writing suites, inspired by certain things. And I think I certainly feel like some of your music has a touch of that, of the Ellington sort of sound as well in there to a certain extent.
Him and Billy Strayhorn are definitely my favourite writers, you know. And of course they have this band of unique individuals, like some huge dysfunctional family that toured from the 1928 until the early 70s, you know.
Amazing.
And, you'll know for yourself from being on the road. I mean, it's not for the best for mental health, is it? And some of those guys, you know, they were on the road all their lives, so it was an amazing bunch of talented people, you know.
And also, what you do is with it is because with these, so you have the octet, and that's and all the reed players they double a lot with a lot of woodwind, so that opens up a lot of textures and colours for you in terms of the arrangements as well, doesn't it? I think that's really interesting the way you use that.
At the moment in the band, it's Karen Sharp. She plays the clarinet very well, and Robert Fowler, who plays clarinet. In fact, they both play bass clarinet very well, and I play it as well. So Stan Saltzman was in some of the things, and I think he was one of your guests, wasn't he? One of your early guests. Yeah.
And Karen's been on as well. We'll have to get Robert on as well to complete this set.
Keep it on in the family,
And so Copperfield, this is a new suite. Well, we'll look forward to that. Is there any dates planned for anything for that yet? Or have you just
there's one at the Pizza in October, and there's one in Faversham in December.
Lovely.
But which, you know, it doesn't sound like much, but after the last year, it's like shining beacons of hope, you know.
Yeah. It's been tough. It's been very tough. And so you know, did you, obviously you lost a lot. You're a very busy player. You're always, you know, up and down the motorways a lot. But I know you had a particular project that you were working on just pre-lockdown. We're gonna play a piece from that. It's gonna be our first piece. And so, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, this was for my 60th birthday. I know I don't look it.
No, definitely not. It's amazing what Zoom can do, isn't it?
It's skillful lighting. Taking at least two of me off. And so I wanted to do tunes from the year I was born, which was 1959. I asked Mark Nightingale if he'd write the record, and he produced these beautiful albums. So every single one of the tunes is as old. One of the tunes is as old as me.
So there's another great reason for that to be such a great year for jazz. Then is
that's
that
top of the list, mate?
The year you were born as well. Wow, amazing.
And also there was a great record that year, Art Pepper Plus 11.
Oh, so the Dectet with Marty Page.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, wouldn't it be nice to take me plus 11, get Mark to write the charts like Marty Page had done, and I'd play mainly alto like Art Pepper did, but also my doubles, bass clarinet, baritone, and clarinet.
Fantastic.
And also I gave a bit more solo space around than Art did.
Yeah, because it's all him mostly, isn't it, on that album? Yeah, mostly, yeah. And so the album is different tracks, but they're from those classic albums of that year, aren't they? So there's a mix of
there's one track is from the Black Orpheus soundtrack, which came out in 1959.
Yeah, so many albums that year.
Unbelievable year. It's got to be the greatest year.
Dave Brubeck, Time Out, Mingus, Artem.
Yeah. The obvious one is
Ornette
Coleman. Blue.
Kind of Blue. Yeah. Ornette Coleman, was it Shape of Things to Come?
That's it.
What was going on?
I know. Somebody beamed some information down that year from outer space, you know.
Yeah.
And everybody went, I see, you know.
And they're also different, aren't they? That's the thing as well. They're not all the same thing, are they?
That's the thing. I mean, isn't that what it's supposed to be like? It's supposed to be like loads of individuals, isn't it? Yeah. Not, you know, all these. I mean, Charles Mingus, they only made one of him. There wasn't a factory knocking them out.
No, crikey. Yeah. I don't
think Miles Davis or Coltrane, you know.
Yeah, they broke the molds.
Yeah, they did. They were just one-off geniuses, you know. There's no doubt about that, you know. And of course, the greatest one in modern jazz is, you know, I mean, I'm including Bud Powell and Monk and all that, but Bird, you know, I mean, Bird sort of, he just invented everything. It's amazing, you know.
Yeah. So, well, look, let's play a track, and we're going to play something from that album. So this is your album. This was kind of the last thing you were working on before the lockdown. You had some gigs cancelled, I believe. Hopefully we'll get them. Yeah, are they rebooked for? Yeah,
there's one in Sheffield and one in Leicester at the moment. But if we continue out of lockdown, I'm hoping to tour it more next year, you know.
Great. Well, it's a fantastic project. So this is Alan Barnes Plus 11. Is the name of the album. It's from 2019, recorded in, and the track you've picked is the Boogie Stop Shuffle, which is the Mingus thing. Fantastic.
Well, I was thinking about you doing all that wonderful work with the kids doing Moaning by Mingus. So I thought,
you saw that? Yeah.
I thought let's get some more Mingus on the show, you know.
Can't go wrong with a bit of Mingus, can you? Here we go then. Let's listen to a bit. And you've kindly provided some pictures as well, which we're going to watch.
Oh yeah.
And then perhaps afterwards we'll name check the musicians, because we'll do that afterwards. Here we go then. Boogie Stop Shuffle. Sorry. Well, welcome back. And that was, of course, Boogie Stop Shuffle from featuring my guest, Alan Barnes, the wonderful Alan Barnes, and the Plus 11. So fantastic all-star band, I think we can say, can't we, with that?
Oh, yeah, lovely.
And a great arrangement there, actually. So was that, you said Mark Nightingale did some of these for you, or did you?
Mark Nightingale did them all.
Did them all?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I just handed it all over to him, and I said, just do them at your own rate. And every day there was a ping, and there was another one in the inbox.
Wow. Gosh,
couldn't stop him. He did about 14 in the end. And,
amazing.
And he also, one of Mark's great trademarks is he always makes his part, because I wanted him to play as well, he always makes his part undeppable.
Yeah, that's very smart. Yeah. So tear that bit out. No one can.
The beginning of that piece, with all that fast tonguing, Gordon Campbell, one of the trombonists, he says, Mark single tongues that, he doesn't double tongue it. And so it's quite amazing, really. Yeah. And he's a consummate arranger and writer, and just a real pleasure to hand the whole project over to him. And he just kept coming up with the goods. There was only one tune he was resistant to. He didn't want to do take 5.
Oh, interesting.
At first, and then he came up with a cracking chart on it. Of course, he came up with this.
Yeah, that's nice. Because this is, I remember that, because it's not you. There's a bit of drums in it, but it's not just a great big drum solo, is it? It's more like a whole arrangement, a whole piece around it. Yeah, lovely.
Wasn't that the only piece that Don Ellis used to play in 4/4?
4/4, yeah. Take 4/4, brilliant. Yeah. Let's just name check everyone on that then, shall we? I've got so on the trumpets. We had Pat White and James Copus, trombone, Mark Nightingale, Gordon Campbell, and on the woodwinds, we've got Howard McGill, Robert Fowler, Andy Panay, who's been on the show, and Mick Foster, who's coming up on the show in a couple of weeks. And the rhythm section was Robin Asplan, Sam Burgess, and Matt Skelton. Very tidy rhythm section there as well. Fantastic.
Lovely.
We've got a few comments in the chat box now, so just say hello to a few people. Hi, David Harvey's in the house. Hello, David. Nice to see you. David's a great photojournalist, and he's published this great book featuring lots of jazz musicians, British jazz musicians. So do check that out. There's actually a link on the front page of my website if anyone wants to see that. Because I'm on the front cover, which I thought I'd stick that on there. Yeah. So thank you, David, for that. John Quinn's in the house. Hello, John. Nice to see you. Steve Clark, he's checking in from around the world. He's in Coney Hall in Bromley, and he's not on his he's on his Malbec tonight. So Jackie Greenwood's in. Hi, Jackie, and Mary Proudlock as well. So good to see you, Alan Peach. Hi, greetings from Lincoln. So that's nice. Hello, Alan. Welcome. And Steve Clark says that swung. Yeah, not half, didn't it? Wow. Yeah.
Pleased with that one. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it's a great album, and so do check that out, folks. And I'll put a link below to Alan's website, so then you can jump to there, and all his work is listed there. So next, I'd like to perhaps just take you back and ask about how you got started in playing jazz, and whether it was a very natural thing to you, whether there was was there like a moment or a person or an album or something just that hit you. I know you were a graduate of Leeds College, but perhaps you could just let us know how do you get into this crazy business? And
it really started because there was a lot more jazz in the media then, of course. I mean, if you watch the Morecambe and Wise show, you were likely to see Kenny Ball or Terry Lightfoot, something like that. And I always liked that. I liked traditional jazz, really, to start. And then I loved Stranger on the Shore, Acapulco. Yeah. I loved that. And
beautiful.
Then I just fell in love with the saxophone, the shape of the saxophone. And in those days, you could go to Manchester and you'd stand outside Stock and Chapman's music shop, and there would be like 60 beautiful saxophones in the window.
So this is you looking through the window.
It was looking through the window. I used to cut pictures of saxophones out of magazines and stick them on bits of paper and have them at the back of my school books and that. And
so what sort of age was this, roughly?
When I was about 11. So I said to my dad, can I have a saxophone? And typical engineer, he went to work and he asked all these blokes who were amateur musicians, he wants a saxophone. What do you think? And this bloke called Ron Yarwood, who used to conduct the Alderley Edge Orchestra, which I ended up being 17th clarinet in. He said, get him to play his clarinet first. So I had to get grade 8 on the clarinet, then I could have got a saxophone. So, and I still play the same saxophone I got when I was 15. So it's nice,
Very nice. Yeah. That's
200 quid well spent.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because a horn has that history you have with a horn like that is priceless, isn't it? You can't just buy you can't just buy it, can you? I mean,
it's all worn away in the right places. It just fits my little fingers, It's nice.
My Joe's plays the same tenor since she was 17. So
wow, yeah, great.
She's and it's the sound, is it? This
is interesting because I talk to people who have music shops and that, and it's not pro players that buy gear.
No. They don't make much money out of us, do they? They can't afford it.
You get something that works, and you think, right, I'll do 40 years on that, and then reconsider.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of mistakes people starting out make is, I'm going to try this mouthpiece, that mouthpiece. The ligatures is the worst one on saxophones. I'm going to try a new ligature. It makes the reed freer. Well, Ben Webster sounded pretty good on just a bit of tin holding it on, didn't he? I mean.
I saw one recently. They're wrapping it around with bits of string again or something. Is that another new fad?
Yeah, that's one. You can do it with dental floss as well. Yeah, yeah. I mean, depends. It's all nonsense. Gear, too much gear.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, if you've got a good horn when you're starting, it does make life easier. And the instrument has to play and work well, doesn't it? I think, and some of the and so some of the really cheap stuff now, like it's just rubbish, isn't it? So that doesn't help. But you're right. We can end up down these little rabbit holes, can't we? Forever. So then how did the jazz thing come? Was there a moment when on a record, or was there a teacher or something? Was it kind of just a gradual, evolutionary, natural kind of progression?
There was a little band that my dad knew in Frodsham, which was called Jeff Hayes' Hot Heights, run by an ice cream chemist.
An ice cream chemist?
Yeah. Now
I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, it is. And do you know who else was an ice cream chemist? Mrs. Thatcher.
Right, okay.
Thatcher was an ice cream chemist.
That explains it all, right?
It does, yeah. So,
maybe she should have had a hot club band as well, and that might have relieved a bit of tension. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Right.
But he had a little band down the cellar, and it was amazing because it was like it's like he'd never grown up in a way. He had it was all wine brewing down there and pints. He had pints brewing, and he had a cellar with full of instruments.
And ice cream. He made his own ice cream.
That's right. Yeah, we used to. It was all there. It was so cold. He had to be cold for the ice creams,
And you rehearsed down there in this freezing cold cellar.
Yeah, amazing. And but he could play piano. He could play drums. He could play bass. And he had these ancient green saxophones. They were green with verdigris. And I've told this story before, but I picked up his soprano, which was so old. It was like 1872 or something.
Wow, one of the originals.
The off, and there was all these little white lice running up down the reed. The mouthpiece full of these lice, I said, oh my God. And he said, give it here. And he blew this oriental scale on it really loud. He said, this drives them crazy.
They hate the Phrygian mode, yeah.
The Phrygian mode.
Yeah, very good, yeah.
But, so I mean, this was a band of real characters, and they kind of played in the Eddie Condon style, right. Where and it was really great for me playing alto and clarinet. And there was a guy. So
they were doing gigs and things, and you were, or was it kind of rehearsal thing?
We did do some gigs, but we stopped doing gigs because they didn't reckon the beer was as good.
So they were just happy in the cellar with the lights and the ice cream.
Yeah. That's right. And of course, it was my first time I started having pints.
Right, I see. Okay.
Heavy brew, you know. So I'd have two of these pints when I was 15 or 16, trying to play the alto, and
I've never looked back since.
it's kind of just carried on in the same mould, you know.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was lovely. And after that, I was persuaded by a music. I had a little band at school that used to do we used to play in youth clubs and things. And the guitarist in that said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to study English at Sheffield." He said, "You don't want to do that, do you?" I said, "No, I don't."
All right.
And he said, "Oh, I've heard of this college called Leeds." And he found a really old prospectus. And it was run by Dickie Horden, who played trumpet with not only Terry Lightfoot, but Dankworth. He was one of these people who swapped styles, like Keith Christie went to the Dankworth band from was not the Yorkshire Jazz Band, but Dick Horden was in the Yorkshire Jazz Band, and he went to the Dankworth band, you know, and it's much more common then. As we know,
people playing in different things and just completely, and it wasn't considered
still going on. People playing orchestra. The problem is that you get pigeonholed. Not particularly me, but lots of people get pigeonholed. Yeah. They do that. Never get asked to do the other, you know. And it's a shame, really, because musicians tend to like to move about and play different stuff, you know.
That's true. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and put yourself, and also it's a challenge, isn't it, to put yourself in a different situation. It keeps things interesting for you musically, and
keeps the fear level up.
Yeah, and it's good to keep moving forward like that. So, then Leeds College, and then graduation, and just you pretty much got picked up pretty quickly, didn't you? After that,
I was very lucky. I mean, there was a guy you may know, Paul Lacey, who runs the Back to Basie band now, and I was at college with him, and he went to London, and there was another room in the house. It was only a tenner a week, so can you imagine that now? You know, tenner a week in London, and we went down there. And we got this 4-night-a-week residency in the Punch and Judy pub in Covent Garden.
Covent Garden, yeah.
Actually, it was 3 nights and a lunchtime. That's what it was.
And it was paid the bills.
Night,
yeah,
and that was enough to live on with the 10 quid room.
Yeah.
I couldn't actually get my alto in the room. It was so small. I used to have to leave it on the landing.
Amazing. Yeah. But, so you didn't have the baritone then, thankfully.
No, I didn't. I didn't buy that till about 1981. I got a baritone. Yeah.
And so you're in London and you've got a residency, and so from there you're just, it's meeting other people, just hooking up.
I was incredibly lucky, and people were incredibly kind at that time. And it was all those kind of people like John Barnes, Keith Nichols, who ran the Midnight Follies Orchestra. I sat in with him. We used to sit in a fantastic pub called the Pinder of Wakefield in just behind King's Cross. And there was another place behind King's Cross. I don't know if you ever went, Merlin's Cave. Bruce Turner used to play. And,
I've played there, with Joe. Yeah. And Simon's played there as well. I can't remember if I've done it with Simon or not. I've done it a few times, but
you're not thinking of Merlin's Cave in Chalfont?
Oh, that must be it. Yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
This one was in King's Cross. And
sorry, you said that.
Yeah, and what was his name? I can't remember. It was George Melly's pianist on piano, really great Australian piano player. And it was just great fun, and there was all kinds of gigs then, like Langham's Brasserie, where I got fired for looking too young. Peter Langham came in and said, "Who's that?" And he said, "Oh, it's the guy who's deaf in." He said, "Get rid of him. He looks like a bloody schoolboy." Yeah. So I was fired for. Now I get fired for looking too old. It's been a long journey between looking too young and looking too old.
And no one told you when that sweet spot was, did they? They never mentioned it.
I could have enjoyed it.
You look great, perfect. Yeah. No one says that. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on. So we're going to play another track, and we're going to play. You've picked a track, "Lonely Woman."
Oh yeah.
From this album, which is from 2005. It's a quintet album, and it's a great album. It's all Horace Silver tunes, isn't it? Because when I saw that, I thought suddenly I thought that was because there's the Ornette Coleman tune, of course, isn't there? But it's not that.
Yeah, this isn't Fish. That one,
very different. Yeah. But so this is a whole album, and it's all Horace Silver tunes, and it's a great band. So how did this project come around? Is it just something you just had a fancy of cracking it?
There's a great jazz writer and fan and guy called Joop Visser. I don't know if you've ever come across him. And he's always been involved in jazz records, you know. And I went to his, it would have been his 60th birthday, I think. And I met Malcolm Mills there at Rand Specific label. And even though I had my own label by then, he was quite interested in doing something. And at the end of a few drinks, we decided to do a Horace Silver record. And it was such a good thing to do. I got Steve, it was going to be a quartet record, and I asked Steve Waterman at the last minute to join me. Actually, on this track, Steve isn't on there. There's 4 quartet tracks on there. But it's not often you think you get it right with a ballad, you know, and this is one of those rare occasions in my life where I think I've hit it.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful playing. So
John Donaldson plays the piano part to absolute perfection.
Yeah, so the album is with Steve Waterman as well, but this is the quartet track, and the rhythm section is John Donaldson on piano, Dave Green on the bass, and Steve Brown on the drums. So, and this is a beautiful ballad, "Lonely Woman" from the album. Yeah, so do check that out. Again, we'll put the links in. Here we go. I hope you're enjoying the show. I just want to take a moment to tell you about a new way that you can help support me do this, and that is through patreon.com. That's right, I've got an account now, so the link's below here, patreon.com Buster Birch, and if you go along to there, you can now make donations by Visa credit card, so you don't have to use PayPal if you don't want to do that. And the advantage of Patreon is that once you do it once, it will automatically deduct on a per show basis. So instead of having to fill in the forms every week, if you want to make a regular donation, then that will just automatically deduct straight to your credit card each per show. And that is hugely helpful to me because it means I know that I've got a certain amount coming in every time I do a show, and that really helps me plan ahead and keeps the viable sustainability of the show going. There's two levels of sponsorship. There's my silver and gold membership. All of my Patreon supporters will get a big thank you personally from me live on the show, and the gold member sponsors will get an additional Spotify playlist which will be sent to you each week. It's something that I'm putting together. It's personally curated by me and will feature lots more albums by the guest artists each week. So it's a great opportunity to get to know this music much better. If you're really enjoying the show and you like the little tasters that you're hearing, that's a great way to get to know this music even more and enjoy in full comfort the full sound of the full albums. Thanks very much. Back to the show. Yes, that's right. We're back, and I'm here in conversation with Alan Barnes tonight, and that was absolutely stunning. That absolutely beautiful performance there on that album. That was Lonely Woman from the album Yeah, and we've got some great comments in there. Brian Way says, yeah, beautiful. Steve Clark says, music to seduce by, and
I haven't tried that.
Too busy playing the saxophone.
Oh yeah, missing out again.
Dave Griffiths in the house. Hello, mate. How you doing? He says, beautiful playing. And yeah, and Pete Gibbs as well. Remember we talked about the
lovely
Len Phillips. Yeah,
fantastic.
So, well, what I thought we could just talk a little bit about is around sort of the early 2000s. I think it was when you set up your own record label,
That's right,
which is. I mean, that's no mean feat. That's a lot of work, isn't it? Doing something like that. But of course, that enables you to. You've got a lot of output and a lot of projects going on. I suppose that was it a fairly natural kind of like thing to do, or
I was talked into it by a friend of mine called Barry Hatcher, who used to be work at Sony Jazz,
right?
And so he said, because I was always moaning about covers that people gave me on records and saying the mix wasn't quite to my taste of an album I was on or something. And he said, why don't you stop moaning, do it yourself? And I said, oh, yeah. And then he turned up, he'd set it all up. I just had to sign everything, and
Yeah.
suddenly I was, and we started the label off by putting out some stuff that I'd recorded some time ago and hadn't come out, and we did that, and then we started recording stuff. Not just me, other people as well.
Well, I was going to say, yeah. I mean, there's a stable of roster of artists as well, but
Lots of different people recorded on it,
and it has a great. I mean, the quality level is very high. It's always great. All the albums.
Very lucky. I mean, Andy Kleindert has been responsible for a lot of the mixing,
Right.
and he's also been responsible for the majority of wonderful sleeves he's done for me. He's always done brilliant sleeves, and it's great. And more recently, my friend Derek Lawton did a great sleeve for the Plus 11. Andy wasn't able to do that one, but so, and it's just nice just to put these things out, and they're not vanity projects because they kind of sell, and then you do the next one, and each CD promotes more work.
Yes, well,
it's like a calling card, as you know. It's just letting people know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, we haven't had that, have we? Because it's not like the old days when, I mean, great players like Don Weller and Bobby Wellins or Pete King, when I first came to London, you go to the Bull's Head, you didn't even care who was on because you knew it was going to be that standard. And it was just them playing tunes. They didn't have projects. I mean, they did later on. I mean, Bobby had Birds of Brazil and all those other things he did. But it wasn't that kind of scene where you just went to see people play tunes, That's kind of gone out the window. I hardly get booked to do that anymore.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's always there's a project or there's an album, or quite often it's the music of someone else as well, isn't it? Nowadays?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Because Warren Vacher always says, dead men fill halls. You're always being asked to be somebody else. Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't know what the answer is. I mean, people kind of. I mean, there's pros and cons, aren't there? I suppose of all these things, aren't there?
Both sides of the coin. Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to have something that you can do as a project and that. But I mean, do you feel? I mean, you have a lot of projects on the go, don't you? So do you feel like maybe a bit spread thin with all these things, or do you find because you can't? It's a lot of things to juggle, isn't it? Or do you just things come in and presumably there's a kind of pool of people that you work with around these various incarnations, so you know everyone you're working with very, very well.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
That beer's gone down the wrong way. There we are.
You're out of practice.
I know. I mean, you could call it loyalty, but I love playing music with people I have great friendships with. So Bruce Adams, Dave Newton, Martin Taylor, all the guys in my octet, they're all great friends, and I sometimes do an announcement. I say, you can only play jazz with your friends, but somehow we've got through the evening. But I think you got to feel at ease with who you are with those people.
It's very interesting. That's come up quite a few times on this show, and I mean, I think because jazz music, you're creating in the moment. Aren't you? Okay, there's heads and there's arrangements and we rehearse things, but a lot of it's about the interaction between the musicians in the moment. You're not playing a fixed part. I mean, like if you did a West End show, it hasn't changed for 30 years, and I mean, quite often they do hate each other. They're sitting next to all them musicians, but it doesn't matter. But with jazz, it does. It really affects the music, doesn't it? You have to make that connection, and maybe because the music we play, it brings us together more as well.
Oh, absolutely. Because
there's a kind of. I think Jeff Simpkins has said it's basically boils down to trust.
Yeah.
That
That's
you feel
what
that.
it is, yeah. Well, it's like my octet. I know that everybody in the front line gets a lovely sound, and everybody in the rhythm section gets a lovely feel. What I think of as a lovely feel. I mean, different people want different things. They want different things. If some people like saxophone playing that sounds really angry. That's not my bag. I really do like beauty in music. And I don't mean saccharine beauty. I mean, You know, I love
Depth
those.
and,
I love
yeah.
big sounds. It's like old mahogany tables. I like them. You know, rather than a bit of IKEA there in the corner. You know, I don't mind.
I won't zoom in on what this I'm sitting in front of there.
But you know what I mean? It's like
top of the range. This is, yeah. So yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dave Green was on that other record, and I always introduce him as a sort of mahogany of jazz bass playing. You know?
Chesterfield.
Yeah,
Sweet.
like
Yeah.
beautiful, seasoned.
Yeah,
It's like all the you know, it's like wine making. You don't want a revolutionary new wine, do you? You want a good solid red, you know.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, of course, it's such a personal thing, isn't it? Jazz music, and there is, like we say, there's loads of different ways of doing it. But there is something about playing music. I think there's something about playing music on that level, that depth, that you connect with each other in that way. I think it's quite personal, isn't it? And you know, we probably wouldn't be so, dare I say, intimate with each other, but on a kind of spiritual, emotional level. When you play music, to play a ballad like we just heard, you've got to. I mean, at some point, you know, we have a good laugh, but like that at that moment, it's not. It's very sincere, isn't it? Very sincere.
It's funny though. You never talk about that off the stand, do you?
You don't. No, we really don't.
That happens.
Yeah. Nothing more is said about it. It's all fun and games again. But to have that moment together is quite significant, I think, isn't it?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
and the fact that often on a record, I mean, it's especially true of Charlie Parker for me. You know, you take the record, you can actually learn the solo, you take the notes down, you can write it out, you can listen the hell out of it, but there's still something on that record you can't get.
Yeah.
There's him. There's more on a record than notes, you know?
Yeah. Well, we were chatting about real books and things, weren't we? And it's like, there's so much on the records, isn't there, that you need to kind of, you can't catch all of it, but there's so much more there than there is in the notation, isn't there? Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Well, okay, so look, we're going to play a couple of duo tracks now that you've selected, and again, you know, this just again highlights those sort of long-standing musical partnerships that you've had with some, you know, fantastic musicians, of course, as well. So you've picked a track. There's a great album you made with Dave Newton, a duo album, Ask Me Now, and it's recorded in 2017. And you've picked this track, I Won't Dance, which is just a lovely, beautiful, sort of bouncy track.
Yeah, a lot of our repertoire is, I arrived for the sound check, Dave's already there fiddling about with a tune I would never have thought of doing.
Right.
And this is one of them that came into our repertoire. Well, it was already in his, obviously, but I said, where's the middle go and all that, you know. And
so this album, you're just kind of getting together and just playing and having fun as such.
Playing in a guy's house in North London. He had a beautiful piano, and Andy Kleindert set up Ronnie Smith. Ronnie Smith was an old band leader.
Yeah.
Fortunately passed away this year, I think, but we used to sit there and we just played tunes, you know. I mean, that's what it comes down to in the end.
Well, there's a certain spontaneity as well there, isn't there? Yeah. But again, it goes, but you couldn't necessarily do that with someone that you didn't know quite so well, could you? I mean, there'd be a bit more preparation involved. Yeah.
Well, I know. I mean, Dave's a very orchestral swinging piano player, you know, so I know that whatever I do, he's gonna support it, you know. He doesn't always let me get away with it. You know, if there's a slight bit of dodgy intonation goes on, we get the, oh, nice, he'll say, you know. The audience can't hear that, but I can.
Ouch.
Yeah, there's a few ouches, and he goes, nice, you know, you hear this all the time. I don't know where you are, he'll say, you know.
Fantastic. Nothing like that. Keeping you on your toes. Yeah. Okay, well, let's play this track. This is I Won't Dance, and it's from the album Ask Me Now. Here we go. This features Alan Barnes on the alto and Dave Newton on the piano. Yeah, welcome back. That was Alan Barnes with Dave Newton in duo. Fantastic, beautiful, lovely, swinging, the whole album. Just really nice, joyful playing. Just two mates having a good time playing together. And of course, absolutely sublime playing from both of you. And Andy Kleiner recorded as well. Really nice recording.
Yeah, oh, he's great at that, Andy, yeah. And he mixed it and he did the cover.
He's a clever guy, isn't he? I'll have to try and get him on the show as well. I think it'd be very interesting to chat to Andy. So the other, we've got another. There's another duo that you work a lot with, which is Martin Taylor, of course, and that's somebody you've had another long musical partnership with over many years.
I was trying to remember where I first met Martin today, and I couldn't remember. I think we certainly knew each other at Jersey Jazz Festival. We used to do things at the same time there. And, we always had a drink together and that. And then I joined his band, Spirit of Django.
Right.
With Jack Emblow on accordion. He was a great pal of mine, Jack. He's a lovely guy, you know.
Mm.
We used to have several running gags going with that band, you know. Like everywhere we went, we'd go in a pub and I'd say, he's 84, you know. He used to embarrass him, you know. So still chat to Jack. And he's great jazz accordion player. And so I was in that band, and then Martin said, "Oh, we should do some duets," and we did. And we did them up in Scotland in a studio up there. And he's quite amazing because a tune will come up, and 5 minutes later he's got an arrangement of it, including 2 key changes, a coda, a beginning and an end. And he goes, "Right, are you ready?" So, well, hang on a minute.
Give us a chance, yeah.
Give us a chance, you know. And and then there's a track on there called "Be My Love," and I said, "What bloody key with him?" He's in A, you know, which puts me in B on the clarinet. He also had this idea that if I just played clarinet, he always seemed to see me with loads of instruments under my arms, coming out of car parks with a bent back, you know.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, we got to get you just on the clarinet," you know. So we did the album just on clarinet, you know.
This album, the whole album's just clarinet.
Yeah, clarinet and guitar.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean just clarinet. I mean clarinet. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful playing. Well, I was going to ask, is there a I mean, I don't want to, maybe you don't want to think about it too much, but I'm just thinking, do you, when you, obviously there must be something quite different about playing with, I mean, you know, Martin Taylor, Dave Newton, 2 of the greatest jazz musicians around, but playing perhaps with piano against playing guitar, or is it just the fact that they're 2 different types of players that you play? Do you consciously play different when you play with them, or is it just they maybe bring something out of you that's different?
What I play with more, if the harmony's great, which it is in both their cases, and the time's great,
yeah,
you know, that's what I play with is their time, you know.
So you just hear it, you're just in there and you're playing and responding as you hear, as you would, wherever you're at. Yeah.
And of course, as you know, I mean, Martin it sounds like 3 or 4 guitarists, you know.
Yeah, it's astonishing. I mean,
it's astonishing. I mean, I remember when I first heard it, my jaw hit the floor.
Yeah,
and like anybody, then you start getting used to it and you just start enjoying it, you know, and you sort of, you know, in a way, you take it for granted after a while. It's still great, of course, but you love it, you know.
Yeah. I think with him as well, and also with Dave as well. But there's a clarity, isn't there, in the sound, like in the articulation.
Point, yeah.
And the time, like you said, the time is just perfect. But there's such clarity in everything that everything's executed perfectly. But there's a clarity in the thought process and the way it's playing. It must, you know.
And there's no extra fat on it either. There's nothing there flamboyant for the sake of it. It's
and that's just how they play, right? That's just there. Yeah. So for something like this, so when you made this album, was it a little bit more kind of rehearsed, or was it again just fairly free with the?
No,
was there a lot of time?
I went up a day early and we made a list on the back of something, and it was because I picked a couple of tunes. I wanted to do "Stranger on the Shore" because that was the tune, and he reharmonized that, and then he said, "Oh, I was listening to this Goon show on Radio 4 Extra." And he says, and Ray Ellington sang this tune called Slow Coach. I've never heard it before. So I had to go to my bedroom and quietly.
Oh, I see. Right. And he said he expect you to know it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So I better learn that then, you know.
I better go listen to some Goons, yeah.
Yeah. So there was, you know, and there's a few, it was just a nice, happy couple of days. And, you know, it was just fun. I love this idea of just going in a room with somebody and playing, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't all make it onto the record, of course, but.
And did you tour a lot with that as that duo? Or was it just
we did about 10 dates, I think, 10 or 11 dates. I mean, Martin's so busy as a solo guitarist around the world that he doesn't really need me hooting away on the clarinet, you know. I mean, I'm an extra.
No, I'm sure he doesn't think that.
I'm a sort of cherry as they throw at the cake at the end. You know.
Not at all. No, I think it's a beautiful partnership and the music's absolutely sublime. Well, look, let's play a track. So this is the title track of the album. And when was so? We just
I don't
so we
remember
know
when it was.
this was 2011. I've got here. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was because he contacted me recently and said, "Do you know it's 10 years? We should do another one."
Yeah,
And I thought,
goes, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Flies
just go,
by.
yeah. Do
So
two
this.
more. I've been an old folks home.
Well, I think you've got plenty more in you, mate. So
I don't need to.
let's play this track. So this is the title track of the album, Two for the Road, and it's the Martin Taylor, Alan Barnes duo, and
Mancini tune, beautiful
tune. And this features you on the clarinet.
Clarinet, yeah.
Here we go. wonderful, absolutely beautiful. And that was Alan Barnsdale on the clarinet with Martin Taylor on the guitar. So a great album, great duo album there. So do check that out, folks. Yeah, Alan, absolutely sublime, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun to do that.
So I think what I was going to ask you about next, we touched on at the beginning. So one of these, well, something that you spend a lot of time on, you've got your octet, which is would you say that's like kind of one of your main kind of bands as well? Because you've done quite a few of these projects with that kind of lineup now, haven't you?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the octet's changed slightly in lineup. Stan Sulzman used to do it when there was a flute. It was quite a heavy flute chair in it at one time.
Right.
Sherlock Holmes suite, and Andy Panay did that as well. But when it got more clarinetty, Karen came in.
Right.
So, and that was more of a Duke Ellington influence, because then we had the 3 clarinets. You can get the clarinet fire wailing there, So, and it's just nice to have 7 other people whose personalities
Yes. Yes.
And another interesting thing that's happened with this, carrying on with the Mark Nightingale theme, having asked him to do that album, I started asking him to look at my charts, and I said, just tell me what you think. And at first he was a bit reticent. I think he thought I was going to get upset, But I began to read between the lines of comments like, is this what you really wanted here? And I said, what's that? He says, the tune being drowned out on the bottom of the clarinet by these shouting brass.
Right.
And I said, yeah, good point. What are we going to do? And he says, well, we can put it up the octave, stick it on something else, move this about.
It's because arranging is a whole. I mean, a lot of people may not appreciate that. Yeah. Arranging is a whole art form of a lifetime's work in itself, and that people spend whole lifetimes doing just one particular style as well. And there's so many styles, aren't there? Yeah. And of course, I think one of the great sounds who I do obviously hear influencing yours is Ellington and that sort of
my main one, yeah. Yeah.
And it's very, and I think, and again, I don't think people quite realise, because they think, Duke Ellington big bands, but they don't quite necessarily. Maybe they don't know the earlier Washingtonian stuff and things like that, or this concept that he is very unique, isn't he, as an arranger? Like what he did was not normal, like the way he scored for the orchestra and things like that.
I mean, there was a lot of the guys in the band used to beef on that they'd really written the tunes. Like Barney Bigard said, Mood Indigo was something I used to do. But it wasn't Barney Bigard that scored that out all wrong, it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it sounds, when I say wrong, I'm using that for effect. Yeah. It's not wrong. It's just totally different to how a Hollywood arranger would take the theme to Mood Indigo. He wouldn't dream of that sound on those 3 instruments out the front,
Yeah, and there was nothing like it at the time. It's still, I mean, it's so identifiable, isn't it? And I think for a lot of people that don't sort of know. I mean, the standard kind of model of something like the Basie band or that, where they work in sections, don't they? So they voice the brass and the reeds together, and they're kind of working like that. But Ellington would take like one of them, and kind of. Yeah. Pete Long was on, and we were
orchestral approach, I mean, and then he got, of course, Billy Strayhorn, who was just one of the greatest writers ever. And you hear those suites, like Such Sweet Thunder Suite, which is about Shakespeare. Far East Suite.
Yeah. And the New Orleans suite was a bit later, wasn't it? They got a bit funky on that. Yeah, it's not quite.
Yeah, they did. That's Johnny Hodges' last recording.
Was it? I didn't know that. Yeah. Is there a Hammond organ on that one as well?
That's right. Wild Bill Davis. Yeah.
Was it Bill Davis? Yeah.
Yeah, Wild Bill Davis. Not to be confused with Wild Bill Davis and the cornet player, but Wild Bill Davis. Right. He'd worked a lot with Johnny Hodges.
Right.
And that Blues for New Orleans, when it starts screaming, he comes in on that alto at the top. It's just great. And the next day he went and Duke are trying to persuade him to play soprano on the tribute to Sidney Bechet on that record, and he'd agreed to do it.
Right.
So that he wasn't he hadn't played the soprano since the 30s because Duke wouldn't play him a doubling fee. So he just refused to play, and he was a consummate soprano player. Anyway, unfortunately, he went to his dentist, sat in the chair. The dentist turned around, said open wide, and he was dead.
Oh, gosh.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that was Johnny Hodges.
It was, yeah.
Literally the next day after that recording.
I think it was the next day, yeah, but it was definitely during while they were recording it, and wow. So Paul Gonsalves took the part of Sidney Bechet on the tenor, played it on tenor, you know. Portrait of Sidney Bechet.
That's why it's on the tenor. Gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so this idea of the suites, and I think what you're doing is very interesting because you're basing it around some. Which was the first one when you did? Was it the Sherlock Holmes, which we're going to play a bit of, and so this was 2003. So this is round about when you started the record label as well.
Yeah, and I started coming up with all kinds of puns and ideas of jazz and Sherlock. So I called it the sound of the Baskervilles for a while. And
very good.
I used to say that this is what happens when Baker Street meets 52nd Street, you know.
Right, yeah, very good. Yeah.
All this kind of stuff. Yeah. And in a way, Sherlock Holmes, it's one of those, when you're sort of, you know what you're like as an adolescent lad, you get obsessions, and
I still get them.
So I kind of found jazz LPs at the same time as it was really hard to find in Altrincham, where I lived, jazz LPs and Sherlock Holmes books.
Right.
Yeah.
So the allure was that much more, maybe.
It was. You'd go. I mean, I remember finding that there was a old Faber and Faber one of the Adventures with him with a pipe. Beautiful bit of artwork on the front. I've still got quite a lot of my original Sherlock Holmeses here.
Fantastic.
And they're just great. And it's just such a simple. I mean, some of it's dated and is inappropriate now, but just that idea of two blokes sat there with the wind lashing on the rain on the windows and the hansom cabs going by, and somebody comes and somebody's been killed with a blowpipe dart and by a one-armed grocer who smokes an obscure tobacco which he's left all over the murder scene.
It sounds just like when I lived in Homerton High Street. Over the off licence, yeah. It's not far off it.
I lived in Hackney. It was pretty heavy.
Yeah. So this idea, I'm interested. So this first time you did, had this been something that was kind of marinating in the back of your brain for a bit, or is it?
Yeah. Like it was a huge piece of self-indulgence. You know, I mean, I'd wanted to do it, and I wrote so much it turned out to be a double album.
Right.
You know, and and I just loved it because there's so much humour.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff in the stories now, you know. It's just so funny when you retell it in a modern way.
Right, yeah.
What's going on, you know. And,
so we get a bit of narration, and then we get some music, and it's done in that whole kind of like storytelling way. And
I dress up as Sherlock Holmes, of course.
There's one of the pictures there. I think we saw on the in the slideshow.
I remember doing it one night, and a bloke came up at the end, and he says, "Was this all about Sherlock Holmes the detective then?"
We go, which
bloody hell, you know, snow flies on you, mate. Brilliant, you know.
No, this is the other Sherlock Holmes. He's the carpet layer from Watford, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And then somebody else turned up. I've been driving all over Folkestone looking for the Sherlock Holmes suite. They thought that's where the gig was.
This is the Condor suite. Yeah. Oh goodness! You can't make it up, can you? That's fantastic. Yeah. So
you don't have to with jazz fans; they'll make it up for you.
Brilliant. So it's like this idea of certain instruments and certain theme. Is it to use themes for the characters, or is it like certain instruments represent certain people and things like that? It's brilliant.
I'll give you a couple of examples. Trombone was the Hound of the Baskervilles,
right?
And I wrote quite a lot of it, and then he was free to do what he wanted. And then there's a chase where they're chasing Sir Charles Baskerville, so that was a piece. And then there was the Holmes's spies are these street kids called the Baker Street Irregulars, we used to introduce it as a West London constipation self-help group. So the Baker Street Irregulars. I made the theme irregularly, and it went bap, do, do, do.
Very good. Yeah,
that's always a test if anyone's pissed after the second half. You know,
they can play it. Yeah.
Bap, 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 you know, it's all going on.
Very. That's very imaginative, very creative.
It's a lot of fun for me to write. I just have fun, you know, doing it.
So So how long was this? Was this in the progress? How long did it take you to?
It took me a couple of years. I mean, at the time, I had like young kids, you know, running around, and so I don't know how I did it. I did it kitchen table, you know.
It's a big piece of work, isn't it? And well, we're going to play a clip on the play out, but before we do, I just want to talk. So, and then this, of course. Since then, you've gone on and done more of these kind of types of things with the
Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
But also, the message for the Christmas Carol is very. I don't want to get political at all, but you know, the message of the Christmas Carol in these days, with everybody obsessed with bloody money and buying and you know, status according to income, and you know, if you're poor, you don't matter. You know what I mean? Or if you're from another country, it don't matter. And Charles Dickens was on that right at that time, you know. We're all fellow passengers to the grave. There's a cheery thought buster.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. Keep it light. It's a family show. Friday night, they're supposed to be
anyway,
bank holiday weekend.
Subject, but it's an important one to me, that, you know.
Of course,
you know, we're supposed to be human beings, you know. And then I got involved with a very fine poet called Josie Moon,
right?
Who she wrote a requiem, and she also wrote a thing about the Grimsby fishing industry, which doesn't sound very promising, does it? That, but she writes wonderful poems, and a guitarist called Pat McCarthy wrote some of the themes. I arranged it all.
So these are other projects that you've done since then? Yeah. Which I was going to ask. So are these commissions that you've now been received for writing these?
The poetry ones, there was some Arts Council help with my other ones. I've just write them, you know.
Right, and so the poet did the poetry came first, and then you wrote the music to those other projects, or was it a collaboration, or was it kind of like?
It was the poetry first in that case. Yeah.
Right.
And Pat wrote some themes, and he just sent me them, and I arranged them. And
I just think that's really interesting, as having that as a germ, as like for your muse, or if you like for composing around. And it's all built around this octet, of course. And with the musicians you've got, with the three woodwind players, you've got that broad palette of sound and colour that you can use more orchestrally. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, and that band had guitar because Pat McCarthy played guitar in it. I hope to tour that again. You know, it's funny to me that you get resistance from people who go, "Oh, I've never been into poetry much," you know, like a sort of badge of, you know, being a real bloke or something. You know, so we could just try it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, sometimes I come across this at festivals where I think I've got one of those faces where people want to confide in me. Because they come up and they say, I'll just be having a pint at the back listening to a band, and they'll say, "Is this supposed to be bloody jazz?"
Oh, no.
And I say, I don't know, but it's music. We could just listen to it.
Yeah. They want to come and confess their opinions. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's, you know, it's as you know, it's tough just not being any good. You know, that's a hard stage to get to, you know.
Just to be able to do it, and do it well.
To do something, it's hard for people, you know. It's hard for all of us.
Yeah, but I mean, I particularly myself, you know, as you know, I like this idea of like projects where you combine things, and it's a big, you know, like it's a real meaty project. I mean that is, but I know how much work there is that goes into that. I think perhaps that's when I see something like these works that you've produced. For me, I mean, I think it's brilliant, and it's the fact that you pull it off as well. It's got some really depth to it. It's got meaning. It all hangs together. But I just see it and I go, crikey, that's a lot of work. I know how much work's gone into that. and
Well,
I've got a lot of respect for that.
you've got to do it, haven't you? And you've got to take it seriously and not say that'll do.
Yes.
So if it's not working, you've got to start again, or you've got to.
Yeah. And seeing it through, like from that idea to finish, that's a big, massive step, isn't it?
And you have to do it a few times for a show to take shape.
Yes, right. Performing it.
So for the first few times, you're ad-libbing gags, and then you keep some of them, and then you build on them.
And what about the music? Is there any little rewrites here and there after a few goes?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, that's another one Mark does. He'll say, well, if you like, we did 20 dates of the Christmas Carol, and every day he came up to the sound check the next day. I've been thinking, if we make that bar 3/4 and this one 4/4, it'll work. And of course, it always improves it. So so it's there. It is. It's great.
Brilliant. So we've got a new one to look forward to coming up. Hopefully, sometime soon we'll be able to come and hear that. You've got a couple of dates lined up.
Yeah, the Copperfield, and I've written Bruce calls me the Ernie Wise of jazz, he used to write a play every week in the Morecambe and Wise show. Yeah. And I've written another one called Jazz Portraits, which is just a portrait of each member of the band, so.
Fantastic.
We just started doing that before lockdown as well, so.
Well, it sounds like you certainly keep yourself busy, and using the time wisely, isn't it, to write and arrange and keep that going.
That's true. Now we're coming out of it, I'm wondering if I've got enough time to finish everything off I've started,
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a bit like, oh, crikey, can I have a bit more time off, please? I just got a few more things I wanted to get done. Yeah. Well, look, it's been brilliant, Alan, and
really enjoyed it, Buster. Thank you. Thanks to everybody who's listened in. Great.
Yeah. And if you have enjoyed the show, folks, then please do consider a donation. It goes a long way at the moment, and all the details are there. There we go. On Buster Birch Virtual Jazz Club, we've got you can make a one-off donation on PayPal, one-off donation on Visa, or if you want to sign up for regular Patreon membership, then you can get all that detail there as well. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. It's nice to see all your comments in the chats box, and take care of yourselves. Next week, I've got Alison Neal on the show.
Oh, lovely alto player, and flute player, great flute player,
She is a very fine flute player, lovely, from the sort of West Coast cool school of cool jazz, and she's going to be playing some beautiful music for us as well, so that'll be fun. And as I said, I've got some more guests booked, so do check the website, sign up to the mailing list, and don't forget to hit the subscribe, where is it, down there on the YouTube channel. That'll be most helpful. So thanks very much, and we'll leave you with this track, and this is from the Sherlock Holmes suite, which was recorded in 2003, and this is the Napoleon of Crime. Do you want to tell us anything about that, Alan?
Napoleon of Crime is Professor James Moriarty, and that was what Holmes called him, the Napoleon of Crime, and that phrase was picked up by T.S. Eliot in the cat thing, what was it called?
I don't know. You got me now.
Yeah,
I know
the cat poems that T.S. Eliot did. There's one called the Napoleon of Crime.
Sat on the Mat, not that one.
No.
Sorry.
Bit too hard, that one.
Sorry. And so this is Napoleon of Crime. This is dedicated to Moriarty, and this is like we've got the full kind of swinging. Mingus-y, kind of like Ellington, kind of like.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, this one I've got to confess is a bit of a rip-off. If you listen to Such Sweet Thunder, the tune Such Sweet Thunder by Duke, I've kind of nicked the whole idea and the form, everything from him. But it is my own thing. And I'm playing baritone on this, and there's great solos from everybody. Bruce plays great on this.
And let's just name check the band here. So we've got the narrator on the album is Alan Mitchell.
Yeah,
and the musicians are Bruce Adams on trumpet, Stan Saltzman we've got on the woodwind, Robert Fowler, yourself on baritone, Mark Nightingale, Dave Newton, Simon Thorpe on the bass, and Clark Tracy on the drums. So fantastic swinging band there. So do check out that, and as I said, I'll put the link below for Alan's website, so you can go out and see more of his albums.
If you put Woodville Records in,
Records, I'll put that on as well.
The record company as well,
and you can buy all the CDs from there. Thanks very much. It's been fantastic. Thanks, mate. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody.
I hope to see you soon, Alan, and have and maybe play some music. That'd be lovely.
That'd be
okay.
Lovely.
Cheers then. Good night, everyone.
Bye. Bye.